Hello, my name is Allison Dyer, and this is my presentation for Child, Family, and Community Relations um, in the fall semester of 2018. I'd like to start out by talking about my service learning experience, and I really solely wish that I had something to bring from my service learning, but I'll explain later a little more what I did in my service learning. I wasn't able to bring anything tangible from it. More of the benefits that I got were connections and all kinds of other resources that I've learned about that I wasn't aware of before. So to start out, let me let you guys know that I was placed at Babe Breastfeeding Coalition in Elizabethton, Tennessee. Jillian Reese is the director of Babe Breastfeeding Coalition, and she is also the director of Carter County Drug Prevention. So I got to really be active through my service learning in both organizations, even though I only was placed at Babe. So a lot of what Jillian does is community-based. It's not a lot of in-office work and tedious tasks, although I helped more with office work on her office days than anything else throughout my service learning. So on a few occasions I got to work with children and do some organizing like childcare while parenting classes were going on, and in some of those parenting class days I actually got to sit in on the parenting classes as well, and I really learned a lot from certain organizations that would come and be part of parenting classes. I was able to experience and receive education on drug addiction and prevention methods, as well as parenting issues that people face in our community. And a lot of those were very tied together. Jillian was very consistent by using every opportunity to educate me about the issues that people are facing in our community specifically. And we talked a lot about how drug addiction can affect parenting and how her organizations tie together. We discussed a lot about specifically how mothers who have been addicted to drugs in the past can really struggle with how to properly parent their children, which was not something that I had really ever thought of, but addiction works with your, the idea of addiction as a whole affects your brain in all aspects of your life, not just with drugs. It affects mothers in not knowing what to expect from children or expecting too much from their children. We talk a lot about how a mother, especially a mother who has struggled with drug addiction before or struggled with any mental health issues, can a lot of times expect too much out of their children. Say, for example, you expect a 1-year-old to be silent in a restaurant for 45 minutes or an hour while you sit there and eat. Obviously, that 1-year-old is too young and needs that attention and needs something to keep them busy and keep them preoccupied. But some people who have not been properly educated on these things may not understand that and may get mad at their kids, and then it escalates into a whole nother issue. So a lot of what I spent my time doing with Babe and Carter County Drug Prevention was I was able to help create games for children to use and for Jillian to give mothers and parents in parenting classes. They were called folder games. So they basically were very simple, very easy to make at home, and Jillian encourages the mothers and parents to make them at home for their own kids and personalize them. But it's a simple, manila folder that is different. You have different themes for each folder game, depending on the age and depending on the child and what they enjoy. But it's got all kinds of puzzles and coloring books and things stapled and taped inside of it. So it's this little folder that this mother can stick inside her purse and pull out in any circumstance where she needs to preoccupy her kid and keep her kid busy and entertained and also engaged and also able to learn. These folder books were always very educational and helping kids learn how to count or read or identify colors, and they're very personalizable to each age range. So that was really neat, and that's a lot of what I spent doing during my service learning. I also, as I kind of briefly mentioned before, was able to make lots of connections with different organizations other than the two that Jillian directed. I was able to make connections with OWL, which stands for Our Whole Lives, if you've not heard of it. This organization provides a curriculum for parents and teachers and anyone who is educating kids. And it's a sexuality education from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. It really works super intensely on proper language for body parts and consent and all kinds of things, identifying this is my body and teaching that from a very young age, and that gives children the ability to have autonomy later on in life and be able to say no and be able to know what they're comfortable with. And also, the curriculum is very inclusive and always mentions that, like, when I was flipping through one of the kindergarten books, it said, for example, you can let kids know that most men have penises, most women have vaginas, and the keyword most there allows for that really inclusive discussion and for your children to ask you questions about what if so-and-so doesn't and what that may mean, and educating your children on the many different aspects of gender and sexuality from a young age, only if they ask. And it's all very age-specific and developmentally appropriate. So that was a really great organization, and I'm hoping to get more involved with them. And just because I was placed at this other completely different organization, I was able to make that wonderful connection. So to sum up my service learning kind of as a whole, like I said, I was able to help with childcare in parenting classes and experience some of those parenting classes firsthand, as well as do some laminating and stuff around the office to make those folder games and to make Jillian's life just easier as a whole. I hope to stay connected with Jillian because she was just a great resource as a whole, and really saw a light in me and saw my passions and helped me figure out where I can go with them, which was really neat. So now, sorry this is all one big old video, but I don't really have much software on my computer other than this. So to transition a little bit, I'm going to start discussing my research topic that I chose for this semester. I had a little bit of trouble trying to tie my research topic in, or a research topic in, with my service learning placement, just because I didn't really know how to tie in breastfeeding and parenting specific and drug addiction into our class, but cyberbullying was a topic that really stuck out to me, and I really feel passionate about because I've had friends experience it, I've experienced it myself, and I think it's something that we really struggle with as a society, so it really intrigued me, and I really wanted to do my research paper on this. So to start off with discussing cyberbullying, it's important to note that some legislation in our country is starting to become better in terms of preventing cyberbullying as well as disciplining the perpetrators of cyberbullying. For example, 44 states now have criminal sanction for online bullying, and 49 states have policies that allow school officials to discipline the cyberbullies. However, the sad part is, and the loophole is, that 32 out of those 49 only allow schools to take action if the bullying happens off ground of the school. Excuse me. Because many schools' strict policies on electronic devices and computers and phones and tablets, and not allowing students to be on those and having them turned on or even at school at all, this causes an issue because the majority of cyberbullying is obviously going to happen when the students have access to their electronic devices and have access to the different methods that cyberbullying can be portrayed on. Cyberbullying can take all kinds of forms. It can take forms of texts and emails and direct messages, or embarrassing posts, embarrassing videos, even as far as going to public forums and hate speech and that type of thing. So even though some schools do have the ability to discipline these cyberbullies and the perpetrators of cyberbullying, and some states have criminal sanction, cyberbullying is also hard to punish and to discipline the perpetrators because most of cyberbullying, statistically speaking, in our country happens within age groups that are under the age of 18 and cannot be criminally charged for anything. I would say almost the most common age group for cyberbullying is probably around middle school, when kids are first starting to have access to electronic devices and social media and getting exposed to that, and they're also getting exposed to what people should, as far as what society says, should look like, should be like, and then are taking their insecurities out on other people and bullying. So there was a case of a child at Grassland Middle School, of a cyberbullying case where criminal action was attempted to take place. The student received, and I quote, this is what the claim made, profane statements, photographs, and a racist death threat, and this was through the form of a public Facebook account that was being used as basically a forum for students to make fun of and bully the student. So this was blatant hate speech, but thanks to the cop-out and loopholes in laws for cyberbullying. The school system ended up getting out of the court case because their personal policy was we cannot punish perpetrators unless we have proof that it happened while on school grounds. So there, according to the school system, was no proof that this cyberbullying and this forum was taking place on school grounds. Therefore, no criminal action was able to be taken. And like I said before, school should have definitely taken action because this was hate speech. Whether you are 12 or whether you're 22, hate speech is hate speech, and we should be teaching children and teaching students that it's okay to be different and that you shouldn't be bullied for something that you can't help, like the color of your skin or the size that you are or the height that you are or anything like that. The sad truth and the root of cyberbullying stems down to the children do not always have that parental guidance that they need to learn traits and learn like the ability to be kind and just to be inclusive. So this whole bullying and cyberbullying issue as a whole stems down to we need to have better school systems that encourage students to be different and encourage kindness and teach all kinds of good qualities, because our educators in our school systems are almost equally, if not more important than our parents and our supervisors of children at home. Parents, grandparents, aunts, cousins, family members are not always the most reliable. And on top of that, to kind of conclude my discussion about cyberbullying, because I could go on forever, but this presentation has a time limit, it should also be known that people of any age, whether it be teenagers or younger, or grandparents, every span from, 2 to 82, should educate themselves on cyberbullying and the dangers of it and the commonness or the commonality of cyberbullying. Not only will the educating yourself and educating your peers help with prevention of this issue, but it can also allow to acknowledge warning signs and it gives you the ability to take action when you see that victims need help. So I hope that I was able to get clearly the point that I would like to make across. I'm very sorry if I talk a little too fast. It tends to be a flaw of mine. I thank you so much for watching this presentation, and I hope you have a great day or a great evening, whatever time you're watching this. Have a good one.